The second half of the AUS men's hockey season officially got underway last weekend in UNB. Following the Christmas break and the recent pause in play, the landscape around the conference has significantly changed with the departure of many impact players to the pro level. Today in Panther Primer, Bo Ford and I are going to discuss that shift that has occurred in the conference, the impact that it has on the potential teams, and what that means to them going into this second half of the season. So Bo, thanks for joining us for the segment.
No, it's a pleasure to be here. It's great to be back into the ring.
Isn't it? It's awesome. So Bo, if we look at it, there's been major changes right across the league. Probably the two teams that have remained the least affected are UDM and Saint X. Of course, Etienne Montpetit becomes healthy again. We saw him last weekend in the game against UNB. He was outstanding. Vincent Delorier is returning, and their roster remains pretty much unchanged. Saint X still has the big boys in play: Liam Howell, Matt Phillip, Matt Struthers, and Jacob Hudson. Four of the top 7 scorers in the league. They're running pretty good. They're set up pretty well. Plus, they've added Ethan Crossman, who's going to be coming back after sitting out the first half. Then we move to the other teams in the league, and that's where kind of the rumble has occurred. Probably the hardest hit might be, I would say, Acadia. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would have to think that that's a fair statement. I mean, one thing, the landscape has changed. There's a number of high-end caliber hockey players that have left the league over the Christmas break, but we played witness to it last weekend when UNB hosted UDM. The parity around this league and it being any team can win on any given night, that's going to stay the same in the second half. It's going to be, each team's going to have to show up, but it's going to be a little tougher when you look at a roster like Acadia. You know, they struggled in the first half. They struggled probably more with consistency in their game in the first half, and then you lose a couple of stalemate guys. You know, you look at Garrett McFadden, what he's brought to the program, not just on the ice. I mean, he leaves at Christmas time as the leading point getter among defensemen. He brings a game and a community guy, what he's done for the program over there, and he's their captain. So it's a team that's looking to host a national championship. They lose their leader. I mean, full credit for Garrett. I mean, it's an opportunity that he had to take, and was probably only back at Acadia this year to contend. And when that question mark arises, you have such a great first half. Do you sit and wait? And the same can be said for Logan Fladell, right? I mean, you lose that goaltender. He's a key piece when he's on. We look at Etienne Montpetit and what he's done in his first game back at UDM. If Fladell
Acadia would have been hoping for that return.
If he can turn that around, the other side of that is the guy that was your number one goaltender. They're not easy to find right now. Is a guy that can come in and carry that bulk of the load, and that was going to be Fladell's job in the second half to give them a push. And then you lose a first-year guy in Tyler Heinem. He comes in with that Memorial Cup pedigree, kind of a local boy to the program, and never really got a great look at what the league was all about. And those are three big key pieces.
Broke his finger, come back, broke his finger again.
Three key pieces. Now, on the other side of that, when you lose those 5 players that they have lost, and then you add Jordy Stoller back into the mix, I mean, that's an exciting time for that team. He's a guy that, is a former 5th rounder to Winnipeg. He had a great season in his first season in the AUS. Just has a nose for the net, and for a team that may be looking to add some offensive flair in the second half, I think he's a pretty good add for that team.
Sure. I think another team, Bo, if you look at it, Dalhousie unfortunately has been hit pretty hard as well too. You look at Derek Gentile, a guy who's well familiar in the local scene around here with the Islanders, second in the scoring and at the time of his departure. Kind of a key piece that Chris Donnelly was looking to build around. He brings in himself, he brings in Darren Kielb, top-end defenseman, a kind of a cornerstone of that back end for that team. And you look at a guy like Barrett Kerwin as another guy who'd be familiar to some of the players here at UPI as well too, former teammates of theirs. So big losses there for a team that had kind of moved up the ranks into 3rd, right? Now they're going to be supplementing with guys. Chris Donnelly has to go into the well a little bit. He's bringing guys. He has to activate 4 cards of players. Kyle Uchek would be one guy who they're bringing in who has some AUS experience. The other guys, Evan McKinnon, Pierce, and the other guys, O'Rourke, they really don't have that experience, right? So that's going to be a pretty big hole for Dalhousie to fill in on.
For me, when you look at Dalhousie, like, yes, Kilb's a big loss. You kind of counteract that with Uchuk drawing in. I know they're not the same player, but it's a similar body. For me, it's Derek Gentile. Like, this guy was a superstar the day that he came into this league, and he committed early. He gave Dalhousie an opportunity to recruit around him. And for me, it's not the short-term loss for the Dalhousie Tiger program. It's the long-term loss. If that's a 3-4 year guy, I mean, he's a recruiting tool. He's a guy that teams want to play with. For a rebuilding program, like you say, they moved into 3rd in the standings heading into the Christmas break. He's a guy that you can build around. At Christmas time, if you're looking to, in a normal year, you're looking to bring somebody in. Hey, come play. In a normal year, come play with Derek Gentile. And we're going to hope to eventually get there where it could have been, next Christmas. Or if the Tigers continue their upward trend, which their program was on that pace. I think that this one, if you look back in, 2 or 3 years and you say, who is the biggest loss of a program? For me, over the longevity of time, it's probably Derek Gentile.
I think you're right. St. Mary's, another team certainly that has lost. When you look at a guy like Mitchell Bomas, reigning U Sport Rookie of the Year. But again, another guy who we have local knowledge of. We've watched him here with the Islanders. We've seen him on display. Killed us last year in the playoffs. But they also lost a guy like Brett Newman, who was brought in to be kind of like a Derek Gentile, big scorer during his time with Oshawa. Of course, he would have local knowledge again with guys like Matt Broussard, Danil Antropoff, former teammates of theirs. So these kind of guys, again, if you're looking at that long-term piece, those were some big losses.
Yeah, you look at a guy like Mitchell Balmas. I mean, I'm very familiar with Mitchell. He's always been that lethal goal scorer, and you talk about the amount of points that he put up, but he's got a winning pedigree behind him as well. Memorial Cup champion in Bathurst, so you're looking to make a push down the stretch. You got the goaltender that you wanted. He's in your program, and Mitchell's just one of those guys that, he had an opportunity to hone his skills during the off year. He's honed his skills. He's made the jump to the American Hockey League, and good for Mitchell. Not so great for the Huskies program that's looking to make it. You look at teams around the league and special teams. For me, Mitchell Balmas is that key threat on the St. Mary's Huskies power play. Who replaces that creep? You might say Brett Newman.
He would have been the guy.
Right?
He was the guy to be there long term, for sure.
A couple of big losses out of the St. Mary's program, for sure. Mitchell's one of those guys, the opposite for me of Gentile, where Mitchell was probably on his way out at the end of the season. I mean, you get him for the year, where Gentile was his first season. There's an opportunity to keep that guy's window in the league a little bit longer.
Right. Then it comes to UNB. We often use the term that UNB never rebuilds, they retool. If you look at it from one season to the next, they lose Alex DeBow, they bring in Samuel Harvey, they lose Samuel Harvey, they pop Rylan Parenteau up into the top role. It just seems a revolving door of players who kind of go around. They lost some significant pieces in the reigning U Sport player in Tyler Boland and Nick Gay, who would come into the ranks this year on fire, right? Third in scoring, right? I mean, showing no slowdown from his time in the queue, and but they've added at least one piece that might help. But again, I think that might be a bit of a change, certainly for that team going into the second half. Yeah, no question. I mean, we had an opportunity to watch their new piece in Ryan Roth. He was in the lineup on Saturday night against UDM. He scored, but when we kind of talked about it. When you look at UNB's makeup, it's all about bringing in these guys with champion pedigree, and they have the tools. Well, you lose Nick Gay and you lose Tyler Boland. They're two big pieces off of this UNB roster. Tyler Boland, was a little bit banged up in the first half, but
but he's still an over a point a game player in this league. Nick Gay, for me, he's that right-handed shot, power forward, drives, scores goals. I mean, we had an opportunity to watch him here a couple times. Former captain, and you know, has some playoff execution in his background too. It would have been really fun to see what that guy was able to do here. If you're a UNB Reds fan in the second half, heading into playoffs. But those are two big losses, and for me, take nothing away from Ryan Roth. He's not going to replace either one of them. You know,
he did score in his first game.
He did score in his game, and he's playing, you know, on the top. He was playing on the top line, right? Dub McFalls and Austin Keating, who's been, you know, great. Their back end, if anything, they didn't lose anything there. There were no defensemen out there. Right. You know, it's not like other years at Christmas time where everybody's got, you know, somebody coming in, you know, where you say it's retooling. Yeah. Those players just weren't out there. I mean, you know, Gardner makes a joke. We got the assistant equipment manager in the lineup here tonight, right? Like,
that's a good story.
And it's the truth. I mean, that's you know, it's
and he started him.
It's unfortunate with the league. I mean, where, you know, this COVID has, you know, backed it up to be there, but it creates great opportunity and creates great story, and I'm sure that the UNB Reds hockey team is happy to have Chris Becker on the bench, you know, and share that memory with him.
He'll have that to tell his grandchildren someday for sure too. Probably the biggest loss, the one that hurts us most, would have to be the loss of Owen Hedrick. He's been the mainstay in this program ever since he arrived. Just watching, for us, having the first-hand opportunity to watch a guy like that progress, first class on the ice, first class off the ice, tremendous family, tremendous person, a real leader, the captain of the team, and a guy that I'm really sad to see him to see him go, but I'm so happy for him that he got the AHL contract that he does deserve, and who knows what the sky is for the limit is for this guy going forward. But I think it's a case where we're not going to replace Owen Hedrick. We're just going to have to learn to live without him.
Yeah, it's a cornerstone, right? You think about coming to the rink every night, and Owen Hedrick's, he's logging 25 minutes, and you know, somewhere it's upward of 30, and there can be 35, you know, in a real, like you say, I mean, Owen's one of those guys. It's not just about what he brings on the ice. I go back to reflecting about Garrett McFadden and the Acadia program. Owen Hedrick was a household name among UPEI hockey fans. There's no question about that. He's got a great family. I mean, we've talked to Sarah Hillsworth. She's the head coach of the our UNB women's team, and that's where her sister Jan is. It's just it's bred right into them, as we might say, down at the race. It's right in their DNA. I mean, great on Owen, and you know, Owen was back with a little bit of salt in the mouth or in the wound, where he was coming back to give this team an opportunity at a national championship. The paper's there. It's the same as Mitchell Balmas. It's the same as Garrett McFadden. They're all in the same boat. It's there. Take the opportunity. I mean, we're going to miss him here. There's no question. And you're, like you say, you're not going to replace Owen Hedrick, but you know, it's an opportunity for somebody to rise to the occasion in this Panthers team for sure.
So hopefully, Bo, on the next segment, we'll have a look at the players that are coming in. There are a few pieces that are coming back, and in the next segment, maybe we'll have a look at that, and we'll delve a little bit deeper into that and see what they can bring to the team. So, thanks for sharing the landscape, buddy. We'll chat soon, and we'll get back and come back and get a little bit of look into the first half of the season of the Panthers, and then take a little bit of look in the future as well too.